What's up, guys? It's your boys Wokey back out with another Chris Watts video today, and we're going to the Untold 60 seconds of Shanann Watts coming home. Did Chris Watts and Nichol Kessinger ambush her? We're going to watch together because this is definitely very intriguing, and a lot of people have said that this could be a possibility. I still think that it happened when they woke up. Shanann and Chris, I don't think she was ambushed right away, but I'm intrigued, and we're going to watch together. You probably see that things are starting to be missing, and don't mind this. There used to be a picture up here, and that's why it looks like dog doo-doo. But hopefully either by tomorrow or by Sunday, we are going to be seeing a completely different scene when it comes to the Zwokey lives and the Zwokey videos. So look forward to that. But before we go any further, make sure you guys are subscribed to my YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you so very much for the love and support that you continuously show on my channel. My channel would not be what it is without you guys. So keep on doing what you guys are doing. And hopefully one day we will reach 100K. But until that time, go over to Secret in the Dark. Go give them some love. They're creeping up to 10,000 subscribers. So go give them some love. And without further ado, let's get into the video.
For little tiny ingredients to this recipe.
Yeah, nothing like
That's Chris. I mean, it's just so many things just didn't go your way.
everything was like somebody was stirring a pot and it was just
Exactly what it looked like. So then,
So who is stirring the pot, Chris? You or NK?
I know I keep bringing it up. So walk me through it though, because she comes home, she touches you, you guys have sex, you fall asleep, then you wake up for work, all natural, all.
I do not believe that for a second. They did not have any intercourse. I also believe that he was completely detached from Shanann. He didn't want anything to do with her, kissing, hugging, whatever. If you're telling me he went to North Carolina and didn't touch her the entire time, as in intimacy, intercourse, whatever have you, you think he's going to touch her when she comes back from Arizona after he just had some type of weird fling on the weekend with Nichol, and then had a 2-hour or an hour and 11-minute phone call, and they went out to dinner at the Lazy Dog? You think that they're going to have booty? I don't think so.
You know, a normal day's work type thing. What was it that made you think, I just can't do this anymore, I have to talk to her?
I still eating away at me. Like I knew like something, I knew everything that I did. Like I know like when I was with Nikki, it was different. Like I wasn't even like in the realm of I'm a dad, I'm a husband type thing.
Oh.
And then like I was saying, when I'm never at home, like sleeping in my own bed, like I have no like concept of that anymore.
Interesting. So in your mind and heart, you can have moved on.
Like
I feel like watching this too, I feel, because we don't actually see it visually, we only hear it, I think things have been cut out. I could be wrong, but it just, some of the stuff, it's like, that doesn't make sense.
it kind of felt like if I wasn't at home, like I didn't think about it almost. Cause like if I wasn't sleeping on my own, but like I think there was at one point like Nikki had gone to the mountains with her friends for like a few days, like into June, first part of July.
Did you tell him that you went with them, butthead?
And then like that part, obviously I'm home, but like from that whole month of July on, it was like I was never home. Like I never had all those reminders. I never had, like every time my wife called me, I would be at Nick's house. Oh.
Chris Watts told investigators that this is what happened in the early hours of the morning when he killed his pregnant wife and their 2 daughters. But even as he said the words out loud, something about his story felt off, like pieces were missing or deliberately softened. And when we look at what comes next in this documentary, his version of events starts to look even more questionable. The gaps, the contradictions, and the physical evidence tell a far different story than the one he tried to present.
I don't think that they should have showed this stuff. I think this stuff could have been like withheld. Like, we don't need to see her panties. Why? Or her bra. We didn't need to see that stuff. I mean, the blanket would have been important to see.
When Shanann Watts walked through the front door at 1:48 a.m., the cameras recorded her exhaustion. She had just stepped off a long business trip, carrying her luggage, moving quietly through the house so she wouldn't wake her daughters. What happened next, in the minutes between entering the home and losing her life, remains one of the most unsettled parts of this case. Chris Watts gave multiple conflicting accounts, and none of them fully match the evidence, the timeline, or even his own earlier statements. He once claimed they talked, that she confronted him about.
I mean, the night after the murders, he was allowed to stay home, which I still think 100% that was wrong, because he was cleaning. He cleaned the upstairs, he cleaned the downstairs, he cleaned the stairs, because he literally said in an interview that he was cleaning, and when the police officers went inside, they had a big, huge smell aroma of cleaning supplies. Why else would you be doing that? To clean up.
The affair, and that the argument escalated. He later claimed they had sex, but the crime scene findings raised questions investigators could never resolve.
Lie.
Shanann was found still wearing the same underwear and bra she wore when she landed at the airport. There was no indication she showered, no sign she changed into sleepwear, and no evidence she entered her nighttime routine. For many investigators, this introduced a troubling question.
There was a cleaning wipe on for like makeup and so forth in the bathroom. So Shanann probably went upstairs, or she probably went through the front door, dropped her flip-flops off. Her children are sleeping. She puts her suitcase right by the blue bag. She probably looks at that blue bag and kind of like, whose is this kind of thing. Goes upstairs, probably goes straight to the girls' room to check to see them and probably give them a kiss, knowing her. She comes out, she goes into the bathroom, sees that Chris is actually sleeping, possibly. She goes to the bathroom, uses the bathroom because she's been on the flight for how long, wipes off the makeup, doesn't get into the shower because she's probably going to take a shower in the morning. I myself, when I come off of a plane, I want a shower because who knows what's on that plane. And then she gets into bed and falls asleep. Some people think that Chris and Nichol were there and jumped her right then and there and murdered her. Again, we don't know an estimated time of death because she was in her burial spot for a few days and decomp started sitting in. So they can't figure out exactly what time of death she actually was murdered at. I would really love to see your guys' opinions. So if you could do that below, I would really appreciate it. But let's continue.
Question: how could she have gone to bed, had sex, and started a normal night, while still in the same travel clothes she had worn all day? Shannon's friends, who were with her hours earlier, said she was exhausted and not feeling well. Under normal circumstances, she always showered at night. But according to Chris, she somehow skipped every.
But there was times that she showered in the morning because we've watched her lives, and she has said she woke up early, had a shower. So, I mean, I like showering in the evening after I've done all my stuff, whatever, or when I come home from work, I want to get all that off and kind of thing. But there's times that I wake up and I'm like, oh, man, I had such a rough night of sleep. I'm going to take a shower to wake up. Like, do you do that kind of thing?
Part of her usual routine. No shower, no makeup removal, no change of clothes, and immediately started a conversation so intense that it turned deadly. Yet the security camera shows she walked in the door at 1:48 a.m., and based on Chris's own timeline, everything, the talk, the argument, the alleged intimacy, and the murder, had to occur almost instantly. This timing problem is one of the reasons experts say Chris Watts' accounts have never aligned with known evidence. Even investigators have openly stated that his version of events cannot be relied upon, because every retelling contradicts the last. The coroner's findings showed no signs of consensual sexual activity. No fresh shower water was found. No
sorry, Chris.
towels disturbed.
And for a guy that claims that he is a Christian man, he sure knows how to keep lying.
Nothing on the scene supported the idea that she undressed, showered, redressed, or engaged in any normal nighttime behavior. So the documentary community continues to analyze a haunting question. If Chris said they had sex, why was she still in her underwears? And if she never made it to bed, what
Because it was a lie.
actually happened in the first 60 seconds after she entered the home? Police have never been able to fill that gap. Chris has never given a consistent explanation, and those missing moments remain one of the most disturbing unanswered sections of this case. When investigators reconstructed the final hours of Shanann's life, they did not start with Chris Watts' words, they started with data, doorbell footage, phone pings, flight records, digital timestamps. Every minute mattered because the margin for truth was razor thin. Shanann arrived home at 1:48 a.m. The doorbell camera recorded her walking inside. From that moment on, the timeline becomes controlled entirely by Chris, and this is where the contradictions begin. Between 1:48 a.m. and 4 a.m., the house is silent. No outgoing calls from Shanann, no messages, no bathroom light detected by the neighbor's external camera, no movement downstairs, nothing to show she settled in after a long trip. Investigators noted that this was unusual for her. Shanann always checked on the kids. She always texted her best friend if something felt wrong. She always plugged in her phone. None of those things happened. Chris claimed they talked. He claimed the argument lasted long enough for emotions to rise. But according to the digital footprint analysis, that window was extremely small, far too small for the detailed conversations he described. He later claimed they had sex. But that statement created its own problem for investigators. How could intimacy, confrontation, emotional escalation, and homicide all fit into such a limited time frame, especially when Shannon's clothes showed no sign she entered a nighttime routine? At 4 a.m., Chris told police he left for work. He said the house was quiet and everything seemed normal. But the neighbor's surveillance footage
I mean, I see what they're saying, that she took off her stuff, which was apparently the same clothing, but the shirt was different. The shirt she had on was a purple one. The one that we see there wasn't purple. So, I mean, we don't know exactly if that was the actual outfit. I mean, yeah, you could go both or two different ways with this.
contradicted him again. His truck was seen backing into the garage at 5:27 a.m., staying in place much longer than usual, long enough for prosecutors to determine he was loading something into the vehicle. Shanann's phone data showed no life activity during this period, no steps registered on her device, no movement. Her phone remained completely still from
And the phone that showed that she was purchasing, I think it was like lotion, was an automatic subscription lotion. So people were like, well, she was up at this time. It happened while she was sleeping, and it happened while she was coming home. So
the moment she walked inside until law enforcement recovered it. The children's rooms also tell part of the timeline. There were no signs Bella or Celeste woke up during the hours after Shanann arrived home. No crying reported by neighbors. No toddler footsteps across the baby monitor. The stillness of the home contradicted the loud argument Chris described. The digital timestamps formed a tight, unforgiving frame. 1:48 a.m. Shanann enters. Around 2 a.m., Chris claims confrontation. 4 a.m., Chris says he leaves for work. 5:27 a.m., truck backs into garage. 6 a.m., neighbor notices unusual behavior. 8 a.m., friend begins calling Shanann repeatedly. Every minute between entry and disappearance had to be accounted for, and Chris's versions never matched the fixed timestamps. The inconsistencies grew sharper when investigators
and either does NK. But no, she's cleared.
realized something else. Shanann's suitcase remained undisturbed at the bottom of the stairs. She never unpacked. She never put away her laptop. She never sat down.
True. And then Chris brought it upstairs. But then for some reason later on, he put it downstairs with those Hawaiian purple ones.
On her makeup bag, something she did immediately on every trip. For a woman meticulous in her routines, these details were not minor. They were warnings that
I mean, this person that's behind this channel is raising some good questions.
something interrupted her almost immediately after she stepped through the door. The timeline did not support a long conversation. The timeline did not support intimacy. The timeline did not support any version of events Chris offered. Instead, the data pointed to a much faster interruption. Something that happened so quickly. She never changed clothes, never used the bathroom, never checked her messages, never reached out to her friend, and never made it upstairs to the girl.
That was one thing that I was surprised about, is like, you didn't see that there was a message between NK or NA and Shanann. Like normally, like my mom goes home, I'm like, hey, did you make it okay? I mean, but still at like 1 o'clock in the morning, you're tired, you've been on the plane for how long? So.
Rooms. The silence of those hours was not normal. It was not accidental. It was not routine. It was the most telling part of the entire case. In modern investigations, a victim's phone often becomes their final witness. For Shanann Watts, her phone told a story she never got the chance to speak, a story made of silence, stillness, and missing movement that contradicted everything Chris Watts claimed. When Shanann walked into the house at 1:48 a.m., her phone was still active. The battery was low but operational. It connected to the home's Wi-Fi as expected. Every normal sign of a routine night should have followed a message to her best friend, a check on her calendar, a glance at her notifications. But none of that happened. From the moment she stepped through the door, her digital footprint flatlined. There were no outgoing messages, no calls, no app activity, no late-night browsing, no automatic steps recorded from walking to the bathroom or moving around the bedroom. Nothing. Investigators studied the step data closely. Shannon's phone routinely registered her movement, even light steps, even slow pacing. But between 1:48 a.m. and the time
You could see that she went up she went 3 different levels. So could she have gone down in the basement, then come up, and then went upstairs? Or did she go upstairs and come back downstairs? I mean, we could sit here all day and just keep thinking each way, but I think that's also what we're trying to find is we're trying to look at this case in every different aspect because we want closure, that somebody else was involved and they don't want to talk about it. And when I say they, the police.
Chris left the house, her device did not capture any significant steps, not even the steps expected from going upstairs, undressing, or entering the bathroom. This was one of the strongest indicators that her night ended far faster than Chris ever admitted. Phone experts explained that even a walk from the front door to the master bedroom would trigger a pattern of step counts. That data never appeared. For investigators, this meant one thing: Shanann never completed the path to her normal nightly routine. Chris later suggested that they went to bed, but the step data contradicted that. There was no record showing her walking up the stairs. There was no indication she brushed her teeth, unpacked her suitcase, or tucked in the children. All activities that would generate movement on the device. The bathroom also told a story. No light switch.
I mean, I brush my teeth at night and in the morning because gosh knows what's going to happen throughout the day. And then at nighttime when you're sleeping, you're like, you don't know what's going inside your teeth. Bugs or whatever have you.
Switched on. No water use detected. No towel moved from its position. Nothing indicated she prepared for sleep. For Shanann Watts, her phone told a story she never got the chance to speak. A story made of silence, stillness, and missing movement that contradicted everything Chris Watts claimed. When Shanann walked into the house at 1:48 a.m., her phone was still active. The battery was low but operational. It connected to the home's Wi-Fi as expected. Every normal sign of a routine night should have followed a message to her best friend, a check on her calendar, a glance at her notes.
That's the thing too, is you want to know if the phone was hooked up and charged, if it wasn't charged, because it was found in the sofa.
Notifications, but none of that happened. From the moment she stepped through the door, her digital footprint flatlined. There were no outgoing messages, no calls, no app activity, no late-night browsing, no automatic steps recorded from walking to the bathroom or moving around the bedroom. Nothing. Investigators studied the step data closely. Shannon's phone routinely registered her movement, even light steps, even slow pacing. But between 1:48 a.m. and the time Chris left the house, her device did not capture any significant steps, not even the steps expected from going upstairs, undressing, or entering the bathroom. This was one of the strongest indicators that her night ended far faster than Chris ever admitted. Phone experts explained that even a walk from the front door to the master bedroom would trigger a pattern of step counts. That data never appeared. For investigators, this meant one thing: Shanann never completed the path to her normal nightly routine. Chris later suggested that they went to bed, but the step data contradicted that. There was no record showing her walking up the stairs. There was no indication she brushed her teeth, unpacked her suitcase, or tucked in the children. All activities that would generate movement on the device. The bathroom also told a story. No lights switched on. No water use detected. No towel moved from its position. Nothing indicated she prepared for sleep. The biggest contradiction appeared when Chris insisted they talked for a long time. Every minute of extended conversation would require posture changes, pacing, or some form of movement, but Shannon's phone showed none of it. She remained still. Then came the most troubling part of the digital analysis. Her phone regained movement only after she was already missing. When law enforcement entered the home later that day,
when Chris was trying to make it look like that he was texting Shanann, but then he was trying to get into Shanann's phone and didn't know the password because she changed said password.
her phone was found stuffed between the couch cushions, as if deliberately hidden. This raised new questions. If she was alive, why would her phone be concealed? If she left willingly, why didn't she take it? And why would a mother who communicated constantly with friends, family, and her work team suddenly go completely silent? Phone experts showed that her device registered steps in the morning, but those steps did not match her pattern. They matched Chris's movements, not Shannon's. This became a
So did Chris have the phone already in his pocket?
critical point for investigators. It showed the phone was moved, repositioned and handled, but not by her. The absence of her step data was not a glitch. It was not an error, it was a timeline marker. A mother who normally took more than 1,000 steps before noon suddenly registered 0 movement at the moment. She walked through her own front door and never produced another step attributed to her again. The silence of her phone, the stillness of her device, and the missing movement aligned with one conclusion. Investigators would later state plainly, Chris Watts' description of what happened inside that home was not supported by the digital evidence. Shannon's phone captured the truth, not through what it recorded, but through what it did not. In every major investigation, detectives examine not only the suspect, but the people orbiting him. For Chris Watts, that orbit centered on one person, his mistress Nichol Kessinger. Her digital history, her timing, and her communication trail became a critical part of understanding what happened inside the Watts home. Detectives began with her search history. Long before the murders, she looked up wedding dresses. She searched for relationship advice. She researched the cost of using someone's last name. These searches alone did not indicate wrongdoing, but the timing raised concern, because they happened while Chris was still married and before Shanann returned from her final trip. In addition, phone records showed that Chris and the mistress exchanged an extremely high volume of calls and messages, especially the weekend before Shanann died. They spoke late into the night. They shared long conversations that lasted hours, but the most critical detail was what happened immediately after the murders. At 6 a.m., while the bodies were still in Chris's truck, her phone showed activity. By 6:30 a.m., she searched for news updates from the town where the Watts family lived, before the police even conducted a wellness check.
Because she wanted to help. Right.
Investigators found this timing unusual, because no public alert had been issued yet. At that moment, only Chris knew Shanann and the children were gone. When detectives interviewed her, she insisted she had no idea what happened. But they kept returning to the question, why would she check the local news before anyone even knew a crime occurred? Then came the deleted data. Phone experts revealed she had erased entire message threads. She had wiped photos. She had removed call logs. This did not prove guilt, but it created suspicion, because investigators needed to know the full context of her communication with Chris in the days leading up to the murders. When asked why she deleted so much, she said she panicked. She said she didn't want the media digging through her.
That's the last thing. If I know that I'm not involved, my last thing is to delete messages. Why would you delete messages? Because you don't. Why do cheaters do it? Because they don't want somebody else finding those messages and find them caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
Personal life. But detectives noted the timing. The deletions aligned with the morning Chris disposed of the bodies. Calls between the two after the murders showed something else. Investigators documented carefully. Her tone shifted. She questioned him. She expressed concern about Shanann being missing. But detectives noted that she also searched for Watts case news before speaking to them, suggesting she wanted to see what was known publicly before answering.
Can cops trace text messages? Can cops see this? They looked at everything.
Questions. Another detail that caught investigators' attention was the man named Jim mentioned in her interview. She said he was a co-worker who lived in a different state and had nothing to do with the case. Police followed up. They interviewed him. They validated his whereabouts. They concluded he was not at the Watts.
See, they always say that they actually did talk to Jim. Where's that if you actually talked to Jim?
Home. But even with their findings, viewers, analysts, and the documentary community still examine her timeline because so much of the case hinges on Chris's motive, and she was at the center of that motive. Investigators looked for any sign she knew more. They found no proof she was at the house. No proof she communicated with Chris during the exact minutes Shanann went silent. No proof she participated in the crime. But they did find something prosecutors emphasized in court. Her relationship with Chris intensified at the exact moment he said he wanted a fresh start. While Shanann was trying to save her marriage, he was searching for apartments with the mistress, shopping with her, attending events with her, and moving deeper into a double life. The searches, the deletions, the timing, and the emotional hold she had over him shaped the lens through which investigators viewed the case, even though no evidence placed her at the crime. The detective's conclusion remained the same. She did not physically participate, but her presence in Chris's life, her relationship with him, and the future they had been planning together, created the motive Chris never admitted openly, a motive that made Shannon's final hours even more haunting. When detectives examined the neighbor's surveillance footage, they found a sequence of movements from Chris Watts that did not match his calm, rehearsed version of the morning. The recording began just after 5 a.m., showing the faint outline of Chris stepping into the garage. But what raised concern was not just the timing, it was the duration. His truck remained backed into the garage for an unusually long time, far longer than his normal routine. Investigators compared his usual departure for work with that morning's footage, and the difference was immediately noticeable. Instead of a quick startup and exit, he made repeated trips between the garage and the house. His posture was stiff, his movements were purposeful, and his head stayed down almost the entire time, as if he didn't want to be seen. The footage captured no sign of Shanann or the children leaving the house, no silhouettes, no movement consistent with a family preparing for the day. The stillness of the driveway clashed with the story he later told police, that everyone was fine when he left. His truck's tailgate remained open for several minutes, something his co-workers later said was highly unusual for him. They described his behavior that morning as off-quiet and unlike his normal self. He barely spoke. He barely made eye contact. He kept glancing at his
employee, or not his employees, but his coworkers said that he just seemed like he was normal, not over exalted or tired or anything, no sweating and so forth. They said he just seemed like his normal self.
phone. Inside the garage, investigators believed he used that time to load items into his truck. The upward motion seen on the neighbor's camera suggested he was lifting something with effort. The slow pace of his movements showed he was taking time, not rushing the way he normally did before work. Digital analysis showed his phone connected to the vehicle's Bluetooth at the exact moment he started the engine, confirming a tight alignment between the footage and the device data. The neighbor who shared the footage noticed something else. Chris was not behaving like a man whose family had gone missing. When he watched the recording with officers later that day, he shifted uncomfortably, kept swallowing hard, and stared at the screen with a level of tension detectives immediately noted.
Because he knew he was fudged.
His body language spoke louder than his words. That morning, the garage became the center point of the investigation because the footage contradicted everything
But yet they didn't spend much time in the garage.
he claimed about leaving the house on a normal day. When police arrived at the Watts home for a welfare check, it was because Shannon's friend had grown alarmed. It wasn't like her to miss an appointment. It wasn't like her to ignore.
Or like that video, the body cam footage of the officers going to the Watts house because they said somebody was in there, and it was Chris Watts's attorneys and team, and they were really doing a lot of stuff upstairs, and we never go upstairs. And it's like, oh, please go upstairs, see what they're doing, because there was 2 girls up there and 1 gentleman in lab coats and so forth, and they had gloves on, so they were obviously retrieving something. It's like, I would love to know what they were like taking pictures of and taking upstairs, and
more messages, and it wasn't like her to be unreachable for hours. The officers knocked, no answer. They rang the bell, no movement inside. The silence of the home added weight to the concern. Moments later, Chris arrived, acting surprised that police were there, but detectives later said his reactions lacked urgency. He allowed them inside, yet his behavior immediately shifted. Instead of helping officers search, he moved around the house in quick, nervous steps.
He went straight to the basement.
Walked to Shannon's phone and commented there was nothing strange about it being in the house, even though every friend told police she never left home without it. He mentioned her wedding ring being on the nightstand, offering explanations no one asked for. It felt rehearsed, and officers took note. Then came the neighbor. He invited officers to view the surveillance footage. But while they watched, he focused less on the screen and more on Chris himself. He told officers quietly that something was wrong.
And just think, if we didn't have Nate's camera either, that footage, this could have went a whole nother direction too.
He had seen Chris leave for work many times before, and this morning looked nothing like his normal pattern. On the recording, the truck's unusual position, the extended time in the garage, and the nervous steps all stood out. As the footage played, Chris paced. He folded his arms, he rubbed his head. His breathing grew shallow. The neighbor ended the viewing with a statement that changed the direction of the case. That's not normal for him. Officers observed Chris's reaction instantly shift. He became defensive. He interrupted more. He talked over.
Oh, like when NK got really defensive, and then half the time she didn't remember? No, more, 3/4 of the time she didn't remember. And then the rest of it was you know, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Like,
over explanations. His voice wavered. Detectives later said this moment, this exact second in the neighbor's living room, was the first unmistakable sign that Chris was hiding something. His slip-up came seconds later. After insisting he had no idea where his family was, he nervously muttered a phrase detectives immediately flagged. I hope they're not hurt. No officer had mentioned harm. No one suggested danger. No one implied injury. Yet he jumped to it. It was the kind of phrase investigators hear when guilt begins to fracture a suspect's composure. From that moment on, officers kept their eyes on Chris. The neighbor's footage, his tension during the playback, and the unexpected shift in his wording revealed a truth he could no longer mask. The story he gave them was not lining up, and every new detail he offered only widened the gap between what he said and what the evidence showed. At the Frederick Police Department, detectives prepared for a long interview.
I wonder if he has more tattoos now. Not that I care, but it's just interested. Like, some prisoners get lots of tattoos. Is he all tatted up? I mean, his face looks still the same, just a little bit thicker.
But they quickly realized something unusual. Chris Watts walked into the interrogation room calm, steady, and oddly composed for a man whose pregnant wife and 2 daughters were missing. His voice was low. His answers were controlled. He repeated the same phrases as if he had practiced them. But seasoned investigators know that control is often the first mask a guilty person wears. The questioning began with simple timeline checks. Where he slept, when he woke up, what Shanann said, what the children were doing. But each time detectives circled back, his phrases shifted slightly. He changed wording. He changed emphasis. He filled in gaps he didn't fill earlier. Investigators paid attention because genuine memories stay consistent. Rehearsed memories crack under pressure. Detectives introduced a tactic they often use: silence. They asked a question and then let the room go quiet for long stretches. Most people fill silence with truth, but Chris filled it with new details he hadn't mentioned before. He talked about emotional conversations. He talked about a marriage falling apart. He talked about Shanann being off. Each statement felt like he was laying groundwork, an attempt to
And like the groundwork, I always compare Chris and Nichol because their interviews were like completely almost identical, where they don't know what they're talking about half the time. They say like a lot, but just their mannerisms, both are guilty. You can hear it in the voice.
shape a narrative that shielded him. His story shifted again when they asked about the morning routine. First he said Shanann was calm. Then he said she was emotional. Then he said he couldn't remember. The contradictions piled up. Detectives noted he wasn't reacting like a worried husband. He was reacting like someone defending himself from suspicion he knew was coming. Then the polygraph began. He agreed without hesitation, which detectives found unusual. But what happened next exposed everything.
I'm not trying to land a plane over here. I'm trying to say red flags in Nunkay.
The examiner asked direct questions. Did he hurt Shanann? Did he know where the girls were? Did he lie about the morning? And Chris's body responded in ways he could not control.
Yes to all.
His breathing tightened. His pulse shifted. His voice trembled on questions about Shannon's final moments. By the end, the examiner didn't mince words. You failed. The room shifted after that. Detectives leaned in, their tone sharpened. They pressed him harder on the contradictions he had brushed aside earlier. Chris tried to hold on to his story, but the pressure broke through the calm exterior he had maintained. His foot tapped. His eyes darted. His shoulders collapsed inward. The rehearsed calm was gone. Detectives changed strategy. They introduced emotional pressure, reminding him of his daughters, reminding him that families deserve truth, reminding him.
I mean, he literally had to Google how to love or when to say I love you. If you don't know, then you don't know how to feel.
Him that lies only prolong suffering. Chris began to unravel. His voice shook as he insisted he loved his children. He clung to phrases that no longer made sense. Then he shifted his story again, a sign that the truth was closing in. The breaking point came when detectives mentioned something they believed would force his hand. They implied they had more evidence. A trained interrogator knows the exact moment guilt pushes past resistance, and this was that moment. Chris covered his face. His voice broke. He asked to speak to his father, a final attempt to find comfort before admitting the truth. What he confessed was another story change, another version, one that tried to redirect responsibility. Investigators immediately recognized it as another attempt to manipulate the narrative. But once he opened the door, the interrogation strategy changed again. They kept pressing, kept tightening the timeline, kept confronting him with the hard facts he could no longer dodge. The lie he had carried since the morning was collapsing. His words were unraveling faster than he could reshape them. And in that small room, under pressure he could no longer withstand, the wall he built around the truth finally began to break. In the end, the case closed because the evidence spoke louder than Chris Watts ever could. The phone data, the missing steps, the surveillance footage, the early morning movements, the deleted messages, and the contradictions in his own words narrowed the truth to one conclusion. Shanann never made it upstairs. She never unpacked. She never began her nightly routine. She never entered the day Chris claimed she had. Every timestamp, every digital trace, every detail from friends and co-workers showed a woman whose life stopped the moment she walked through her own front door. And every timeline placed Chris at the center of that silence, the only person with the opportunity, the motive, and the control of the house in those hours. When investigators confronted him with the full weight of the evidence, the story he had tried to build collapsed completely. The confession that followed was not the result of honesty. It was the result of being boxed in by facts he could no longer bend. The recovery of the bodies, the autopsy findings, and the final forensic review confirmed what his shifting stories tried to hide.
And I can't remember, I think I did make a video that I caught where NK knew how the girls died before it was released. I can't remember which video it was in my playlist, but yeah, Nichol knew how that they were deceased, or they were how they were deceased by saying it in I can't remember if it was the one that was outside where she had her dog and then her dad and stuff like that, and then she kind of accidentally said it. I'll have to find that video, but it tells us that Nichol knew already.
There was no outside intruder, no mysterious disappearance, no last-minute accident, no version of events that matched anything he said. What remained was the truth documented by investigators, prosecutors, and the courts. Chris Watts acted alone. He destroyed his family to pursue a future he never fully admitted to, and every attempt he made to hide the truth was undone by the trace evidence left behind in the home. This case ended because the facts never changed, even when his story did. And in the silence of that house, the evidence told the real story, one he could no longer escape. This case leaves behind questions, pain, and a reality that will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching, and for giving space to the victim's story.
So I'm going to leave it there. Definitely raised a lot of good red flags, eyebrows I had a few times. And hearing certain things, you're like, nah, we already know that's completely far-fetched. The reason why this is important, obviously, if there was somebody else there to help her, we've been told that he possibly came from the back. NK could have been there. That's why her phone pinged there. There was stuff that was happening downstairs because Chris was going down there right away. I mean, we've gone over the different possibilities. It's just sometimes I get so like pissy because I want to find just that missing little piece or puzzle piece or Lego piece, and that Lego piece it's keeping it from falling, and I want to find it so it doesn't fall anymore. And then trying to listen to things that I might have missed, and I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes and just watching this over and over and over. But I guess that's what you want when you want justice. Let me know if you guys think this version there's things that could be found if they did something bad. Like, it's going to be harder to find new evidence because the house is lived in, Survey 319 is gone. So the new evidence that they're going to have is going to be with the evidence that they've collected, if they even did. That's what puzzles me the most, is how much that do they actually have that would actually be in a trial, what we would have seen, pictures, Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. It's just a lot of things that just make you ponder for hours, if not days. Again, thank you guys for being here. Please take care, be safe. Again, don't forget to go over to Secret in the Dark, do the love and subscribe there. And as always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in the next video.